welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Desiree and I'm the owner and creator behind The Handmade Mom, where I create mom and positivity focused items. Now in this week's video, we're going to be continuing the discussion of craft shows and vendor markets, specifically talking about how to select which markets to go to as a small business. There's a huge variety of markets that are available out there, and it can be really overwhelming to try and figure out the best one to attend as a small business. But I have a few tips that I want to share with you guys in this week's video that have helped me with picking which ones I wanted to attend, so hopefully you guys can find them useful. If you did not watch my video last week, I will be sure to link it up top for you guys, so make sure to go back and watch that first, because there we talked about how to find the markets, right? Because you have to find all the different options first before you can even select which ones you want to attend. So go back, watch that video, and then come back to this one. Finding vendor markets, we have done that now. We now have our list of however many markets we are considering attending. Now, how do we choose which ones do we actually attend? So I have 4 tips for you guys in what I use to try to select the best markets that I can. Now, keep in mind that there's so many different markets out there, and they're all going to be best suited for different types of small businesses. So the point of these 4 tips is to hopefully help you guys narrow down your giant list, or narrow down even just a huge variety of types of markets to what's going to be best suited for you and your small business. And that could look different for you guys, for your small business friend, for me, for your family member that also has a small business, whoever. It might look different for everybody, but these 4 tips will hopefully help you get to what's best for you. All right, tip number 1 is to know your target audience and know the target audience of the market itself. If you're trying to make a quick decision on maybe a last minute market for you and your small business, then knowing this could actually really be helpful in making that decision pretty quickly, because if the 2 target audiences align, or if they are the same, then you have a good likelihood of being successful at this market. And that's what we all want. We want to be successful at a market. So if the target audiences match up, then that's a good indicator that you may do successful. Now, keep in mind, just because the target audiences don't match, if they do match up, does not automatically guarantee that you will be successful in the event, because there's so many other factors to it. But it's a good indicator that at least the types of customers that will be drawn to you and your products would be potentially there at that event or the market. So that's a really good indicator. We're going to use an example of Comic-Cons, right? There's a specific type of person that Comic-Cons are geared towards. And for me and my small business with The Handmade Mom, the products that I sell would not necessarily be suited for that customer base, because those customers are not looking for mom and positivity focused items when they go to a con. They are looking for some kind of memorabilia or some kind of autographed piece of art or something along those lines. And a t-shirt that says "Feel all the feels" is not going to be what they're looking for at an event. So that's a really good example of knowing that, okay, my target audience is not the target audience of this event, so I probably wouldn't do that one simply for that fact. All right, now tip number 2 is using social media to go back and see previous events that have already happened. If the event you're looking at is a monthly market, go back to the month prior, or go back 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and just see, what does the setup look like for the market? Was it indoors? Was it outdoors? If it was indoors, what did the signage look like outside to let customers know that there was a market inside? What was the foot traffic like? What kind of vendors were there? How were the vendors set up? Things like that are really great things to observe and research and see beforehand, so that way you know if you're going to be suited for a particular market. Now, when it comes to this though, there's one little part that you have to just kind of take with a little bit of grain of salt, because it all depends on timing when the coordinator of the event usually takes their video or takes photos, things like that. Is the foot traffic, the amount of customers that are walking through and shopping. This one is a little bit tricky to research on because sometimes the videos that the coordinators are taking of their events to share on social media to try to get people to come out tend to either be right before the market starts or right at the beginning of the market. And what I found is a lot of times there is not a huge influx of customers right at the beginning. It does take a little bit of time for people to start coming and walking around and kind of getting settled in the market. And so when you have a video that is taken right at the beginning, it may seem like there is very scarce amount of foot traffic. So just kind of keep that in mind, that it may just be due to the timing of when that video was taken or those photos were taken. You can also look up the specific market itself. Sometimes they will have a Facebook or Instagram account that is specifically for that market. They'll post pictures, they'll post videos, things like that themselves. You can go back there. You can also find some of the vendors that were a part of that market and look at their pages, because sometimes they tend to post when they're going to be there or when they're already set up and kind of what that looked like for them. Some small businesses will also do little shout outs or little walkarounds of the booths around them, and so then you can also get a feel that way. So just doing some research. Instagram is a really great way, and Facebook is a really great way to go back and do some research on events that have happened in the past. All right, now tip number 3 is asking vendor friends. If you are attending markets already and you've met other vendors, or if you know people who are attending markets already, then ask them, which markets did they attend? Did they like this market? Or which ones would they avoid? Which ones would they not suggest to go to? Things like that are going to be great things to ask other vendors. They've already done these events. They've already gone and experienced it, and they can tell you from a vendor's perspective if it's a market that you should even entertain, if you should even consider doing. There are some markets that may seem really, really great, but once you did it as a vendor, it really wasn't that great. Somebody who's done it can tell you that. Or vice versa. Maybe there was a market that seems kind of, low key and not really that great, but once you've done it as a vendor, it turns out that it's going to be a really, really great market. And only a vendor can tell you that. Asking vendor friends is a great way to get the insider scoop on different events and a good way to see and gauge which ones are going to be best suited for you. Now, the 4th and final tip that I have is to attend the market as a shopper first. Now, this one can take a little bit of time because if it's a yearly market, so an annual market that happens only one time every year, and it's coming up, say, next month, right? You have to either just decide to go for it and do it, or attend it as a shopper first, but then now that means you're having to wait a whole year until you can actually be a vendor at that market. But this might not be such a bad thing, especially if you're looking at larger markets, something that maybe costs a little bit more to get into. Maybe it's a longer event, so 2, 3, 4 day markets. Those might be worth waiting that time to go and shop it first, and then the next year becoming a vendor if you choose to. I actually did this one the first year that I was doing markets. I had done all kinds of small little markets, and I went to this very last one in November. That was quite a bit bigger than what I had done in the past. I had heard about it. I was really interested, and I was kind of nervous to do it because it was so much bigger. It was a 2-day market, and it cost more, and the amount of shoppers that were going to be expected at this event was a lot more than I had previously been at for other markets. So what I did is I went that year and attended as a shopper just to get the feel for it, see what it looked like, see the layout, see the setup, see the vendors that were there, and just kind of feel out if I thought would be best suited for me. I left that market that year feeling like I can do this, and that became my goal for the next year. And I actually ended up doing it, and I actually ended up doing really, really well at it. And I will be going back to that market this year again. So I'm super duper excited about that. But I would not have known, and I would not have probably just jumped into it had I not attended it as a shopper first. It's a lot easier to attend a market as a shopper first and then go into the market pretty quickly afterwards. If you're going to one that is maybe either weekly or monthly, those are a little bit easier because you attend the market and then the next month or the next week you can go as a vendor. But this one in particular is really, really great for something that's a little bit larger because you really want to see what it's like from the shopper's perspective too. I think attending as a shopper first can really give you some great insight on a lot of different things that you can implement as a vendor, such as maybe how you set up your booth space and kind of what that flow looks like for your space. The maybe best way to set up like checkout and kind of have that as like a smooth process. Maybe the best way to market for this particular event. I don't know, there's so many things that you can learn from just going and being a shopper first that you can then implement as a vendor. Okay, so those are the 4 tips that I have for trying to help you guys decide what markets to attend with you and your small business. Now I'm actually gonna add a 5th bonus tip, and that is go for it. That is to just go for it. Sometimes we can do all the research and the digging and the looking into all the markets that we want, but what it ultimately comes down to for some of us, and me included, because I think I would not have started markets had I not just done this, is to just go for it. Sometimes you just have to go for it. If it's a really small market, it's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. I know that sometimes the vendor fees can be a little bit harsh and a little bit scary and steep, so I get it. But sometimes you just gotta go for it, or you just gotta do it. This is how I started getting into markets, is I did all the things, right? I researched, I looked, I didn't ask around because at the time I didn't really know anybody, but now I do. Now I ask vendor friends. But what really got me into doing markets was just going for it. Just taking the plunge, taking the leap, and trying it. I think the very, very, very first market that I did when I was Craft from Creations was, I think, a small, like, local animal shelter market. And I think the fee was like $10, $15, something like that. It was not successful by any means. I don't think I sold not even 3 things, maybe. But I at least got myself out there. And I would not have done that had I not just gone for it and had not just done it. So that is my 5th and final tip. My bonus tip for you guys is to just go for it. I know it's scary. I know that there's an investment with it. I know that it can be really, really difficult, but sometimes we just have to go for it, and you never know where that could lead you. All right, so that's gonna be it for this week's video. I hope that these tips were really, really helpful for you in narrowing down the decision on what market to attend as a small business. So if you found this video helpful at all, please give it a big thumbs up. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, and it really, really helps me out. Also, let me know down in the comments which one of the tips you thought was the most helpful. All right, so next week, be sure to check back because we will be talking more about how to prepare for a market. Now that you've selected one, how do you prepare for it? What do you need? What do you do? We're going to continue on this series on craft show and vendor markets by discussing that next week. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so that way when I upload that video, you'll be notified that I have done so. Thank you guys so much again for watching. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys next week.